In this episode, we're going to cover business revenue, aka money. If you haven't watched the P&L episode, this will make more sense with that one under your belt. So, why talk about revenue? Because it's what makes a business go round, and it's more complicated than it looks at first glance. As a marketer in the outdoor and sporting goods industry, you should have a solid understanding of the different kinds of money that go in and out of your business. So here's what we'll cover. Where money comes from, fake money versus real money, what you can do with revenue, and finally we'll cover some pitfalls and features you can trip on as you think about revenue and talk about it. So in order to talk about revenue, we have to talk about distribution, the different ways your goods get to consumers. Understanding distribution will help us tease out the different ways a business can talk about revenue. There are a few kinds of distribution. You can think of them as the number of hops a product has to make between a manufacturer and a consumer. The easiest one is direct selling. That's one hop. Let's say we're making skis. We make them, we sell them, probably through a website. That's one hop. The skis go from us directly to the consumer. The next level of complexity is a wholesale business. In wholesale distribution, we first sell our skis to a retailer, a ski shop, say, and the retailer in turn sells to a consumer. The retailer acts as a middleman and adds in a hop. The third kind of distribution adds in another hop in the form of a distributor, another middleman. The distributor buys goods from the manufacturer, sells them to retailers, who in turn sell them to consumers. You'll sometimes hear this referred to as a two-tier system because there are two distribution tiers between brand and consumer. In some categories, like bike shops, distributors are very common. One reason is that it gets very complicated for a manufacturer to manage lots of small accounts, like the thousands of mom-and-pop bike shops across the U.S. Your sales staff could balloon if you had to constantly take and fulfill millions of little orders. A distributor takes on that work for a cut of the revenue. See, revenue. That's how we get back there. So let's talk about how revenue flows back to the manufacturer. In direct selling, the money goes from consumers directly back to brands. One hop. Let's actually add a little piggy bank in there to do the hopping. In the wholesale model, there are two piggy hops. Consumer pays retailer, retailer pays manufacturer. Not necessarily in that order, but we'll get to that in a second. Finally, in a two-tier system, the distributor pays the manufacturer, retailers pay the distributor, and consumers pay the retailer. Now, at each step of the process, whether it's direct selling or two-tier systems, the businesses have to make money. A quick refresher on margin here. Margin is the difference between what it costs to make a thing and what you sell it for. Let's say we make a pair of skis for $50 and sell them for $200. We just made $150 in margin. If there are more hops, then the other players get some of that margin. We might sell the skis to a retailer for $125, so they can sell them to a consumer for $200. Dealer and brand each make $75. Why would a brand give up those margin dollars? Lots of reasons, but one is scale. You can sell a lot more skis if they're in stores everywhere. So even though the margin on one pair of skis is lower than it would be in direct selling, when you add up all the margin dollars across a lot more sales, you can make more money. So I mentioned that the order of payment was important. Let's take a look at a calendar. Here's a simple go-to-market calendar. We're going to use it to plan the business. At the end, we'll call it Fall 24, we're planning on having our goods at retail, meaning available to consumers through any and all distribution channels. To get there by August 2024, we have to start earlier. This time span, usually called lead time, can range from a few months to a few years depending on the kind of business you're in. Let's take a fairly long one. We'll get started planning our products about a year and a half before retail. Over that time, we'll go through all the steps in our go-to-market process. We may have a design phase, maybe make some prototypes, finalize those into samples we can show to retailers and the media. And then, if we're a wholesale or two-tier business, we have to now actively sell to the middlemen. Let's put that in the fall of the year before we hit retail. Now, nobody's really paying anything until they get the goods. So the real money happens at retail time. But our wholesale sales force is out there selling a year in advance. Ski stores or distributors are writing orders for our products. So there's revenue associated with those orders, even if the goods haven't changed hands yet. It's kind of like promised money or fake money, but it's important. We have names for the fake money that's associated with the orders and the real money that comes in when we deliver the goods. The former we call bookings because our retail dealers have booked an order, and the real money we call invoice because a retailer will get an invoice and pay us when the goods deliver. So why does it have to be so complicated, you might ask? Why doesn't a retailer just call us up during retail season and order some skis? Well, they do that, but those are generally just small restocking orders. It's in the retailer's interest to commit early so that they can secure inventory. A manufacturer is only going to sell so many skis. If consumers are demanding skis and retailers wait until the last minute to secure their orders, they may find that there are no skis left. Other retailers have scarfed them all up. So in lots of categories, we have this pre-order business with bookings revenue early in the calendar and real revenue when the goods actually ship. To make things even more complicated, the bookings amount and the invoice amount are seldom equal. Let's say we have contracts. We book $10,000 in sales, but because some dealers may cancel orders or we may have to provide additional discounts, we may only get to invoice $8,000. As with most things in life, there's a fall off from the ideal to the real. And the real is the invoiced money. That's king. That's what actually comes into your business and funds all your expenses. So why deal with bookings at all? After all, it's not real money. That's true. But it gives you a fantastic insight into where the business was going and where you're going to be in a year. If you know what your bookings are and you have a good guess from historical sales what the rate of fall off is between bookings and invoice, you can make a pretty good guess at how much money the business will make next year. Even better, you have an idea of which products are going to be the most popular, about how many of each product you're going to have to manufacture, and even some data on the long-term health of your business, what's working and what's not. Bookings are where budgets come from, at least in part. The finance team used them to build a model for next year's budget. Planning teams use them to determine how many units to contract for with factories. And best of all, bookings provide a wealth of insight for marketers. If you know a year in advance what products are working, you can plan support for those through marketing programs. Now, you likely had some plan for this way back at the beginning of the GTM calendar. Even in the early stages of that process, all the functions of the business should be in agreement on which products they think are going to do best at retail. But that's really just an early educated guess. Once you can see where the booking dollars fall, you can start to see which products are likely to be the most successful. That gives marketers a chance to course correct, to shift dollars and programs to products that are working, or maybe to shore up products that are important but are not booking well. So bookings may not be real money, but they're real useful to a business. If regularly reviewing sales forecasts based on bookings is not a part of your marketing workflow, it should be. They're like a crystal ball to see into the future. So what should you watch out for? Remember, bookings are not real money, even if they are real useful. The business is measured on invoice, real money. Neither revenue number tells the whole story. We talked about the fall off between booking and invoice, but only relying on invoice means you're too late to act. You need to look at both. Margins matter. And again, a plug for the P&L episode if you want to learn more about margins. The reason it's a pitfall is that greater revenue, either bookings or invoice, doesn't always mean great business. If your products are inherently unprofitable, they have low margins, selling more of them isn't necessarily going to lead to riches. Finally, having multiple types of revenue gives storytellers more options, for good or evil. You can use bookings to tell the media that you know you have a popular product coming up. That's a good use of early data. You can also make claims about the success of the business, which may or may not be true. Bookings are up. We're doing great. Maybe. Useful information for some purposes, but smart investors will wait for the real money to come in to see how well you're doing. That's it. Thanks for watching. Marketing is about learning. From AI to A+ content, we're responsible for a lot. And the more you can learn about the basics of running a business, the faster you'll learn and the better you'll be as a mountain marketer.